Hey there folks, this is Josh, Stoney Ridge Farmer. Welcome back to the farm. It's another beautiful day here in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. And we're gonna take the 5065 tractor and this old 492 hay bind, and we're gonna cross our fingers that everything works just fine. So we know we got a flat tire on the hay bind. We've got our little compact Pancake compressor from Dewalt. We're going to go ahead and fill the tire up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that this thing holds air. If it doesn't hold air, we might be in deep doo-doo. In other words, we won't be able to cut hay today. So we're going to go ahead and pump the tire up, get this thing all lubricated. We'll explain to you how it works, and we'll put it to work out here in the field, and then we'll come back and talk to you when we're done. So come along today as we have a little bit of fun cutting hay here on the farm. All right? First things first, guys, I can't say how happy I am with this little Dewalt Pancake compressor. It's done a great job. I'll post a link down in the video description. I actually did a review probably 2 years back. I'll post that up here too so you can see the review. It's been a great, indispensable unit to have here on the farm. Super duper portable, so if I've got a tire down somewhere on the other side of the farm, I can grab this and I know it'll get the job done. So let's give it a shot. So what we call this in North Carolina is flat as a flitter. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but this thing is flat as it can be. Hopefully she'll hold air. Now when I pulled this machine out of the woods, which is where it came from, this was on my stepdad's farm. Oh, fingers crossed. It's coming up, good. So this was on my stepdad's farm. These are agricultural type tires, and they're old. Some people call them airplane tires, ag tires, whatever. We pulled this thing down the highway on these tires at about 20 miles an hour early on a Sunday morning, and I actually did pull this thing out of the woods. It was covered with pine trees. My stepdad had it on his farm, and he said, man, I just didn't like it. It works great, it really does. It looks like World War III hit it, but it really does a great job. We're probably gonna have enough air in this compressor to fill this tire up. I can feel it holding air, so it's doing good. Typically, I'll come over and check these about every 6 months or so because they're sitting out in the weather, and I'll make sure that the tires stay aired up, but I got a little bit behind on my work. So let's lube everything up. We got good air pressure. We'll show you how the lubrication points on this machine work. We've changed over to the rubber gloves, and the reason we wear rubber gloves when we lubricate everything is because I don't want to start off greasy. In other words, I'm going to get greasy lubricating this machine, no doubt about it. We'll take you around, we'll show you all the grease fittings and all the moving parts and how this hay bind works. And this hay bind, I guess, is probably circa mid-1970s, something like that, maybe early 80s. So from left to right, lubrication points. There is a lubrication point right down in there that lubricates this major shaft that goes through here. Also over here on the other side, we flip up this little door and voila, there's another lubrication point right in there. We got a little bit of grass in here. Now I happen to know this thing's been sitting here for quite some time, so I've got to be a little bit wary that there might be some bees nest in here, some wasps. So kind of take a look and a little smack and we jump back. So there is a lubrication point in here somewhere also. Need to squirt a little bit of grease on this arm. This pops out, and what that does, you pull a string that's up on the tractor, and basically it takes this whole machine and offsets it to the tractor. In other words, you don't want the tread of the tires riding on the hay you're getting ready to cut. Now typically, if you didn't mow a couple laps all the way around your field like we did, you would make one lap backwards. In other words, you'd run over the grass the first time around, then you turn the tractor around and you go back the other way. That way you're always running over the old windrow, and you'll see that when we throw the drone up in the air. So the windrow will come out of the back side of this machine. Let's show you the rest of the lubrication points and how it works again. So we've got a little lubrication point in here, we've got a lube point in here, we've got to lubricate this guy right here so it slides easy. We follow on up, and we've got a PTO shaft that we have to lubricate. We have a hydraulic line hooked up, and that runs to a hydraulic cylinder, which is on the back side. Let's go over to the back side. So around here is the back side. This tire's good, that tire's holding air, super duper awesome. This is the hydraulic cylinder that raises and lowers. So we'll raise it up, we will pull this pin out, and we'll pull this back so that this machine can go all the way to the ground. That right there restricts it. That's for travel. That's to keep it up off the ground. Inside this little cabinet right here are more lubrication points. And I've got some rubber gloves stashed in there. So there's a couple lubrication points. There's a couple areas where we can check fluid in the transmission, and there are lubrication points on all these moving parts right here. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And there's some wasps in there, evidently. Told you, there's bees around these parts. I don't want to get stung. Not fun. So a wasp isn't a bee. It's a wasp, by the way, for all the entomology experts that are out there that like to correct me, but I like to say when something stinging is after me, it's a bee. The way this thing works is down low here you have what's called the cutter bar, and the cutter bar is basically a sickle bar. So this cutter bar cuts, and this apparatus rolls, rakes the hay up kind of in the air and in between these two black rollers right here. We'll go around to the back and describe that to you. There's an adjuster on this side that adjusts how tight your windrow comes out. In other words, it adjusts this flap. And this flap is set just where I like it. And these are the crimpers. So that front rake system throws them up into these crimpers, and those crimpers crush the grass and allow the grass to fall down crushed so it dries better. And they'll just spit it out the rear of this, and you'll see the windrows that it puts out. Lubrication is the lifeblood of this machine. Do I like keeping it outside in the weather? Heck no, I don't like keeping it outside in the weather, but I don't really have a place to put it, and it's sat outside for 20 plus years and it hadn't hurt it one bit, so not really worried about leaving it outside. Hay baler, for sure, want to keep it inside, and the hay baler has a whole lot more moving parts. Tomorrow's video will be baling and raking the hay, so you'll get a little more touch on that, and the hay rake is right over there. Let me grease this thing up, get it fired up, throw the drone in the air, and show you guys some pretty farming. By the way, this is our Dewalt Grease Gun. It's a powered grease gun. I'll post a link in the video description. Super duper awesome to have on your farm, especially when you're lubricating multiple lube points like this. It just makes things go just like that. Good stuff. Inevitably, there's always one grease fitting that's really hard to get to on every piece of equipment. So I had to rotate this around a little bit by hand to get to everything that needed to be lubed. So we're good to go now. We're gonna go ahead and get started mowing. Gotta pull this pin. Come on. You can do it. I might need to get my hammer. Knuckle buster. Oh, there's a pin right here that I know is notorious for being hard to get out, so I take my Spud Wrench. If you guys don't have one of these on your tractor, you're nuts. You gotta have one, man. Super awesome. We'll roll this back into that position. We'll slide our pin back into place. And we're ready to rock and roll. So the goal is to allow this thing to fall all the way to the ground. There's some skid plates underneath it. It just cruises right along the ground. Cuts the grass about that high. And of note, we're probably gonna cut about 2.5 to 3 acres per hour here. At first we started this, we thought we're gonna have about 25 acres of hay to cut. It's probably gonna wind up being more like 12 or 15, which is fine. That's all the hay we'll need for this year. Little emergency. My wife just called me and said the dog ran out in front of her and she fell down the stairs. She thinks she broke her arm. I'll keep you guys posted. Got about half the fields mowed. Sometimes life does things like this to you.